Hello, everybody. Welcome to our finale show. Yay! Wait a moment. I just got that. I got to open the door. Taranjeet, can you quickly take over the show?
Of course, no worries, of course. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the finale. And it's what an amazing journey it has been. I can't believe we started out 52 episodes ago. It was on a just a discussion I had with Muihan, and let me give you some ideas about how this started. And he then stated, look, we're currently stuck indoors. We are here with everyone else stuck indoors. Wouldn't it be great to sit down and have a discussion on what really matters? We're hearing a lot about this whole unsettling thoughts that are going through our minds. We are hearing a lot about the effect that this is having on people. And you know what? Companies are closing, there'll be retrenchment, and nobody's actually talking about that. There'll be all these issues around mental health and safety and well-being at the workplace. What are some of the things that we can talk about? And that actually was the tipping point that led to elephant in the room. Why elephant in the room? Well, because we are talking about things that many people don't want to talk about. They are thinking about it, but they don't really talk about it. And hence, there is an elephant in the room. We're feeling around, we feel a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but nobody actually wants to make that stand to talk about what this is. And this then led to the Elephant in the Room series that we are currently hosting for the very last time for this series, mind you. Muihan, back to you.
Hey, hi. Thank you. So I just got a delivery from Ted. Thank you so much. All right, it's an anniversary cake to celebrate our last finale show. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you, thank you. So today we're gonna have our normal show, no extended. So I better get down to it. And thank you for all those who have tuned in to actually support us. So we're going to start the show by showing you numbers, okay? And if for those punters, you may want to take down these numbers and probably try your luck in the 4D shop tomorrow, okay? So what are they, all right? So we have three numbers to start with, 37, 31, 34. What are they? Any guesses? Please put in the comment section if you know. Actually, Taranji have given that answer away.
Sorry,
Earlier,
sorry, sorry,
earlier
sorry.
today, if you notice what he has posted on his LinkedIn. But nevertheless, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the first number, Taranjit, which is 37. What is
Sure.
37, my friend?
And if you can just highlight it up there. So 37 is the number of guests that we have hosted over these last 52 episodes. And I can't believe it, honestly, that we had the opportunity to speak to 37 people. And we were cracking our heads in the early stages of this show about who do you think we should bring on board? And next thing you know, we've already got 37 people. What an amazing opportunity that is. What about 31?
So I also wanted to thank all these 37 individuals. I would say some are our close friends, some are our clients, some are our business partner or so-called partners in the sense that we work on projects together. Some were even people that we don't actually know, but we just quote unquote cold call and they responded, and we are truly thankful. So we will review all these 37 in a short while. Next number is 31. So what is 31? 31 is the episodes with guest insights. So we have done more than 31 episodes with guests on our show. The rest of it is, of course, between myself and Taranjit. Of course, every week we do that one weekly recap in that sense. And we started our journey since 13th of April, and today is the 26th of June. So we crossed a span across 3 months, at least from April, May, and June. And we are very fortunate to have done this. Okay, so that is 31. 34. 34 is the topics that we've covered. And maybe Taranjit, offhand, what are the 34 topics? Not all 34, but quick one.
Sure. So 34 topics, essentially, we started out with what the landscape looked like. And that's where we originally looked at the whole area of retrenchment, the whole area of agility in the workspace, and what have you. We then moved along, and I'm not going to go through any particular order. We then moved along the area on sectoral analysis. We're looking at different sectors and how they were being impacted by the MCO. We moved along into the regional perspective, looking at different countries within the region. And that's where we had the absolute delight of having people like Dr. Tariq Dasuki, people like Vertica, who was with us yesterday, people like Rifki, Ratanjit Singh from Australia, as well as Sushil from Singapore. So we looked at all these different perspectives. And as we moved along very quickly, we then came into the reality that we are focusing today. Thank you very much for what was happening yesterday. Guys, enough of all of that. Let's now talk about now. And that's where I think it started out with Zorab, with one of his comments. Enough about the new normal. And I thoroughly took that on board and said, look, there is no more new. This is the normal. And I think he made that emphasis on more than one occasion. And it resonates with us. It resonated with me. And so whenever people talk about the new, I said, look, forget about the new. There's no more new. This is it. And that then continued all the way until about 2 weeks ago, where we started to talk about digital, that whole digitization space. And we were very fortunate to have the likes of Professor Sattar on board from Singapore, talking about his book and talking about the digital leadership. And as we moved into the last week, we had the absolute delight of having Rohit Nambiar to talk about the stuff that AXA Affin Life Insurance is doing within this digital space, catering specifically for the millennials, as well as the online learning that we had this week with Puvan Balachandran from Unita University. And that's where we are today. And that's 34 topics in matters that really impact us and areas that really impact us. Mihan?
Great. So three numbers is not enough to buy the for punters, I know. So you will curse at me. Give three only. How to buy? Don't worry, we got two more numbers. Actually, ideally should be six, but we only got two more, right? So what are the two more numbers, my friends? It is 6 and 23, okay? So what is 6 and what is 23? So 6 is the easy one. 6, we managed to cover 6 countries to get their local perspective. And I think when we started this show on early April or mid-April, we were never in mind to think of other countries except Malaysia. But I think the conversation just went wow, you know. And here I want to give special credit, I think, to Dr. Michael Heng. I think he's one of the first adopter of our show since week day one. And subsequently that we having a lot of conversation behind the scene. And then he also came on, I think, in week 2. So with that, thank you so much, Dr. Michael, to start the thinking of regional, and then where after that, as they say, the rest is history. So we hit from Singapore to Indonesia to Australia to India to Egypt. Have I missed out any country?
No, that's it. That's it.
Yeah. So, hey, I missed out one country, Kazakhstan. Yeah.
Oh, and Kazakhstan. Oh, we got to change that. Seven.
So that was really giving us a push to move beyond just the Malaysia shores. And one good thing about this conversation, even as what Vertica was saying, we are quite uniquely different, but yet very similar in nature in a lot of things. So maybe one conversation that we didn't get to do yesterday's show, because we were like having so many topics to discuss, so many key points. I didn't want to raise that because it will drag another half an hour. So before the show, I actually asked Vertica this, being the capital of software development in the world, the global capital of software development, which is India, would the IR 4.0 practices or the IR 4.0 adoption differ from Southeast Asia? Because in Southeast Asia, my personal feel is there's a lot of talk, but actual action, when the rubber hits the road, there's none. But we perceive India being the software development capital of the world, fully digital this and that. Is it different or is it the same? So the answer, my friends, is it is quite the same for the SMEs. So yeah, we are very same. All right. So that's number 6. All right. What about 23? So 23 is the number of hours you're gonna get if you subscribe to our current YouTube channel. So if you decide to watch non-stop for a full day, and we got enough content to last you 23 hours. Okay. So yes, that is one thing that I want to share to start with the numbers. Let's move on, Taranjeet. Okay. Wanted to share this as well. Our first episode. All right. And the first episode, maybe I'll make it bigger for everybody to look at. All right. So the one on the left is actually not our first episode. If you look at the date, there is 12th April. This is the eve of our first episode, and we were doing some promo. And this was on a Sunday evening, very impromptu. We got together and say, why don't we test out the system as well as to record a short video? And if you can look at both our expressions, this was so classic. I just captured the moment and say, wow, shucks, how can we go live with that kind of facial expression? What are your thoughts on that, Taraji? Could you remember that?
No, and I was thinking about this when I saw this. I said, "Oh my God, we have grown." I must say, compared to where we were 3 months ago, and I actually got comments on the LinkedIn to say, "Look, you may want to just relook at your facial expressions as you're talking." And now there's a lot more smiles, there's a lot more feeling around there rather than the static. So you know what? We've grown up, Muihan. We've actually grown up. So. Um, all part of learning. Let's move along.
So 1 week later or 5 episodes later, uh, doesn't much change. You and your serious word and me and my oh goodness.
Such is life. Such is life. Such is life. Okay, move along. This is quite
Okay,
embarrassing
great,
here.
great, great. Embarrassing moments that mean to move faster, is it? So we wanted just to quickly show you our journey, and that is what Taranji has been talking about. But let's put it into perspective and put the names into the each bucket. So from all in all, we have covered these 6 bubbles throughout our journey, and 6 bubbles talk to different people. All right. So I will quickly just go one by one to start it off. All right. So
Okay.
the first bucket is what we call the landscape, and we have these 4 wonderful gentlemen that shared the journey with us. So I think Daman was the first guest within the first week itself. I think on day 4, episode 4, we already hosted Daman Sivalingam to actually help us to understand what employers need to look at in this time of very uncertain time of that was at, I think at the start almost slightly started the MCO period for
Yes.
some time, right? And he came in with his legal perspective. And then the week after, we started to bring in the different folks. So we started with, I think, Dr. Mike first. Dr. Michael Heng came in to share with us his Singapore experience. And
Experience.
maybe,
Yes.
Taranji, you want to talk about both Hira and Sharin Asmi, maybe?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a delight to talk about them not only now but any time there. Couple of things that really struck out with Darman. First of all, was his level of reality. There was a very calm, reflective mode that Darman brought to the table, looking at particular things that were important and are still important given labor law, given Employment Act, and what have you. When we moved on to the likes of Sharin, I think one of the things that really resonated with a lot of people were his thoughts around the Sarah curve, if you remember. The shock, anger, reflection, acceptance, and healing. And he went to also focus on what should we be looking at as individuals who are now being impacted by this. And his words of wisdom, his experiences that he brought to the table really resonated with a lot of our viewers. And Hira brought in a slightly different slant. He talked about it from an organizational perspective. What
Technique.
does the organization need to do? And I refer to, for those of you who are thinking about this, please refer to his voluminous. There's a very nice book that he's created that
Ah,
talks about the different types of templates.
templates, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I highly recommend HR practitioners and CEOs alike to have a look at this book because he does it in such comprehensive approach where he talks about the different types of thoughts that you need to think about when you're looking at these different angles. So well done to Hira and well done to these individuals around the table here. Excellent. Wihan?
I also wanted to get all of you to look at my design posters. So for your information, I did all the design posters for all the 52 episodes, especially those with guests. And you can look at the evolution of it. I think from this slide itself, Sharin one is became the standard after that. So before that, it was a little bit of experimentation. So sorry, Hira. So sorry, Dr. Mike. So sorry, Daman. We are new to the game. Don't have an in-house designer. Got to think a bit, and yeah. But after that, we got it spotless, and it looks great. All right, moving on to our next bucket, which is the very interesting, the sectoral. We have these three individuals who was amazing. So we started with Param Sivalingam, who gave us very comprehensive outlook what COVID has done to the construction industry, at least in Malaysia. Of course, Param being the ex-project director of KV MRT Line 2, also a personal ex-client of mine, has a vast understanding of the individual players within the sector, as well as how it would impact whether COVID, social distancing, and so on and so forth. So that was with Param on the construction sector. The next day, we have Sushil Singh from Singapore to talk about the startup tech sector. Maybe Taranjeet, you want to give your inputs on it?
Absolutely, absolutely. A good friend and a very good individual to know, Sushil, and he brings tremendous insights into the financial and the investment sides within the startup space. But a couple of things that really resonated was the area around speed and agility and collaboration. He at that point in time, very early on, started to raise these traits, which today, 3 months later, after all the discussions, we see it being emphasized over and over again. So kudos to Sushil for raising it at the time. He also talked about relevance. Guys, you have to be relevant. And we heard it for the very first time at that time when Sushil was with us. The area also around the impact that individuals are making in this relevant space. If you're not being relevant, then chances are you don't have right to come to the table for a discussion. So that was my takeaway from Sushil. What
Great.
about Dr. Vanita?
So Dr. Vinita was the first person from higher education sector that he brought about, because both of myself and Taranjeet, we have a sweet spot for higher education. I myself very actively involved with the undergraduates to ensure that graduate employability. And of course, Taranjeet has been talking to different stakeholders in this spectrum as well. So Dr. Vinita came on to really tell us how does COVID-19 changes the higher education sector, especially at that moment, which this was early, I would say late, almost late April. And I like the idea that she changed the mindset that, having satellite offices where they can start to learn, not everybody to the campus and person, right? So that was one that I really got from Dr. Vinita. Okay, let's move on. We are running out of time. Oh no.
Yes, just 1 minute with Dr. Vanita. What was really also intriguing was she raised the digital marginalization, and it
Yes.
was it was the first time that this was actually raised about the fact that you have the digital guys who are digitally connected here in the urban areas, and then the moment you go out of town, these poor guys, and we've seen it in recent days with the latest news clippings with the young ladies sitting up in the tree trying to get Wi-Fi connection. So she raised it at that point in time, and that was about 2.5, 3 months ago. So well done, Dr. Vanita. Sorry, Muhan, please go ahead.
So next is regional, and that week we hit 4 different countries in 1 week, which was a very, very impressive record. So we started out with Dr. Tariq Dasuki from Egypt. Then we went on to Vertica from India, ended with Rifki, and the last one, of course, was Ratanjit from Melbourne. So maybe quick one, Taranjit, on
So
all 4 regional
yeah,
guests.
so just generally the things that really came out for me was there was, interestingly enough, from Dr. Tariq, there was a positive impact to COVID, and I found that really impactful. He went away to say, you know what, guys, we need a shake up of the environment. We need a shake up of businesses. They're just too comfortable. He brought in a very different energy to this already doom and gloom, but he didn't use the word doom and gloom. He went and actually talked about how can we now enhance ourselves in this regard. There was a double whammy discussion that we had with Ratanjit out of Australia. Not only the bushfires had hit us, now also the COVID. How are we now going to impact that? Now Melbourne is back in a surge, a spike, given what is happening right now. So it'd be interesting to see how that has evolved in this regard. Vertica, I thoroughly enjoyed. She coined the term Gen COVID. I like that. And you know what? I have started to use that as well. So there'll be a whole generation of individuals who have been brought up in this environment, whether it be online learning or otherwise. So these were some of the key takeaways that came out of this. Muihan?
So Rifki had a very good perspective from Indonesia, and the Indonesia scene is actually quite similar to Malaysia, although they are much more populous than us, but predominantly Muslim. And that was during the Ramadan month, and how Ramadan is totally changed forever by COVID. And you can see that impacting small businesses, impacting practices, and so on and so forth. So we also share that very wonderful insights from Rifki. Okay, so next, move on. We have different lens, and from different lens we look at from different perspective, and we started with the two girls, both Isian and Elizabeth Lee, which we did a very different show where we invited both of them to come on, where we invite our audience to give them feedback, and that was really a very impactful show. Thank you so much for all our audience to contribute that day, and we're really thankful that you've given these two young girls a lot of inputs. All right, and then from there we went to Kazakhstan, I think. Yeah.
Yes, we did. And Kazakhstan was amazing. I really hold these two individuals in very high regard as graduands. They're not even graduated, they've already started their business for 2 years. Looking at private tutoring, looking at this whole notion around humanities and the sciences. Kudos to Laura and Mehram for the effort that they have taken on. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and if I recollect properly, when we had the discussion with them, Laura was graduating that day, or it was just after that. So, you know what? Absolutely brilliant. And for me, coming in from that part of the world myself, having been there for several years, that's the Kazakh approach. There is an entrepreneur spirit deep down inside there. So well done to the Kazakhstani graduates there. Muhan?
So then we talked to two young professionals. One was Farah Nazura. So Farah was a building executive with Mike Frank Malaysia, to share her perspective or to even ask questions of how can she look at career planning better. She is in the workforce for 2 years, and this is a very uncertain time. And then we followed that up by Felicia Matthew, who is a young consultant with KPMG Malaysia. And we are happy to hear for our big four consultants. They are actually quite inundated with work during this time, given that the rest of the world is very worried about their job security, but not so much for our management consultants, because there's a lot of probably restructuring, rethinking, reimagining happening with the different companies. So I think I remember when we talked to Felicia, Felicia was very calm and say, oh no, I work doubly hard, because there's so much work to do, right? And that was with the two girls. All right, next, let's move on. This was the wonderful and very interesting week, I would say, and we will
Indeed.
talk about different entrepreneurs, from social entrepreneurs to small businesses to TVET area, as well as employer, and we had Nina to help us to balance that equation. Quick note from you, Taranjeet.
Sure. The stuff that we talked about here was the rise of the authentic leader. There was the rise of being realistic. Let's not just be go out there and smoke some stuff there. Let's talk about the reality. And we saw that also from Sean when he was talking about the fact that, you know what, we all need to put our shoulders to the grindstone and push together, otherwise discussions. And that's where it was amazing to hear Sean's view around hard conversations will start to happen if employees are not putting their carrying their weight rather. What I thoroughly liked about Ben's approach, and I will quote Ben, and I'm looking at the quote right now. Don't let fear dictate your life ahead. Use it as a motivator to find light in the darkness that surrounds us. Ben, bloody brilliant. I love it. I love that quote that you came up with. I like what Sean mentioned, and I'll quote Sean here: tough times don't last, but tough people do. Well done on that, Sean. Muhan, back to you.
So with Joking was a very interesting perspective because Joking comes from a scale up. A scale up is a bigger version of a startup. Of course, he's with photo book company Malaysia, and Joaquin was sharing with us how prepared they were to work from home because they were already doing it even before the announcement of MCO. They had the infrastructure, they have the systems, they had the working arrangements. And moving forward as a scale up, they also give a lot of freedom and empowerment to check who wants to come back to office to work or who want to continue to work from home. So there were some very interesting practices coming from a very progressive scale up like photo book company, right? And of course, I had my good mentee, which is Shaikit. Shaikit runs a social enterprise and gave us a thorough understanding of what he calls the third sector. So that was quite an interesting
Indeed.
discussion. And this young man is just amazing. He's gone through the world doing very amazing things. And today he's still contributing to the social enterprise scene. That means he's running a business with a major social impact is as a focus, doing work with the Orang Aslis in getting them clean clean water through his startup Luminary, and that was amazing. How about Nina? One thing that you probably remember
So
with Nina.
Nina, I like the stuff, and I've always enjoyed conversations with Nina, and she brought in a slightly different perspective around what employers are looking for, and she then talked specifically around the whole area of you wanting to have a level of honesty and humility. You don't know everything. So if you don't know, let's ask, especially in these uncertain times. And she was the one that actually brought on the area of authenticity in leadership. So it displays if you're not as genuine as you would like it to be, after two times of talking, it really comes up. So kudos for raising that up, Nina.
And then
Thanks.
we talked about this reality, and I see Mel is online. Hi, Mel. Thanks for joining us today. And we really accelerated this conversation, I think, when we came to reality, right? So we started the week, I think, with Andrew Lau, who talked about new ways of learning, and because things have changed. So gamification is something that is hugely popular and gaining traction. And we tend to learn better under different types of simulation learning from the from the different processes that is being engineered, right? So that was with Andrew Lau. And then we had a good friend Damiri Petra to start to come to our show to talk about the agility. And I think agility has been a key theme that we keep revisiting over and over again. You want some comment on that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And when Damiri came in, it was decent because he talked about the fact that life skills or the lifespan of skills were now coming down to 3 to 5 years as opposed to what it was before. That really resonated with me, and quite honestly, I think it's a lot less than that, simply because of the speed at which we are changing. So that's the first one. I love his comment that Damiri made. You can't get a coal miner to do the work that a data miner does overnight. Well, actually, maybe on reflection, you can't get a coal miner to do a data miner's work full stop,
Yeah.
because it's a very different type of thinking, complexity of roles, future centric thought process. So these are some of the things that I took away when we were looking at Damiri.
Of course, with Mel, we got this whole discussion of mental health and mental well-being. and we wanted to zoom in very specifically with the changing of the way we work, especially working from home, remote working, telecommuting, teleworking, behind the screen. And I think one of the discussion point we raised very carefully was to say that we do not know how would this impact our social life on a more permanent basis, because probably we are adjusting due to the requirements based on lockdown and MCO. But moving forward, it will be highly blended. And when it's highly blended, will there be a permanent effect on our personal well-being or our social well-being? And I think Mel qualified to say that there's no continuous study done yet to show that, and probably in 2 to 3 years time we may see some kind of impact or some kind of study related to that, right? We had two other person that was there, was Atlee. Atlee came in to talk about Simdabi Oils, all the initiative they took during the MCO period. And then we ended the week with, of course, with David Jones, who really talked about the new skills needed by the manager. And maybe one point to add to that quickly.
Is
I know
the area around honesty and that whole perspective around making sure that there is honesty in everything that the manager does as they are managing these very uncertain times. One of the things that really came out was the ability that David had to link the Chartered Management Institute and the stuff that they are doing at a global level with what's happening here in this part of the world. So, kudos to David for spearheading that. Muihan, back to you.
so. And that's where we came to the all the top people, all the our heavyweights, all our C levels to actually share with us the idea of digitalization, and we look from it from different lenses, from all the way from life insurance industry to the higher education industry, as well even in the shopping mall industry, because Kevin Tan, of course, talked about the blended approach of e-commerce versus the need for our shoppers to still have the shopping experience, to be there, to witness it, to feel and touch, and so on and so forth, right? And that was very interesting. And of course, we ended that week to really with Professor Sata to look at the different areas in digital leadership or disruptive leadership. At least that was a few key things that I got throughout this, and I was thoroughly very amazed with individual of them, because they gave so good advice. I remember one best advice that Kevin talked about was to lower down the ego, to eat porridge if you can't eat rice, do what is necessary to survive so that you can fight another day. So that is amazing. Thank you so much, Kevin Tan, for that. How about you?
So for me, it was Rohit's last comment actually encapsulated. We want to play in this digital space. We talk a lot about innovation, but you know what? Are we putting our money where our mouth is? And I like the way he raised it. If you want to innovate, get ready to be fired. You know why? Because there will be times where it'll be really good. It'll be times where it's not really good. But the idea is you stand your ground. And if you feel strongly about it, let's go ahead and do that. What I liked about Professor Sattar, as an example, the stuff that he talked about was the agility, the mental agility, the people agility, change agility, and results agility. And his comment that really resonated for me is you fail, you make sure you fail fast, learn from that, and move along. And you know what? Nobody's going to hold that against you, because that's what this is all about. This is the disruption that we currently are playing in. Wihan?
So with Puwen was very interesting, because Puwen, although he runs a higher education industry, but he's not the traditionalist, what we call academic in nature or from his background. So it was very interesting to note that UNITA International University is the full digital university from day one itself. So they have no issue sliding into this period where others are playing catch up or playing reactive, but they always have been positioned as a digital university. And we are so happy to hear that their MBA, e-MBA programs have just shot up tremendously over the last few months and in this period, as well as so we challenge him to say that teaching is very different, online and things like that, and say, guess what, we've been doing this since day one. So we've been planning our lectures, planning our classes, modules, always with the persistent mindset of digital first. And that is something very, very intriguing and interesting for me, right? Okay, last one, and which was this week when we closed it. Ta-da! So
Amazing.
if you notice, I didn't put posters of both Kevin and Renuka, but because we repeat it again,
Yes.
but both Kevin and Renuka during their individual session, it was so insightful for so many people, and we thought that we needed to bring them back together to do a together show. That
Special.
yeah, and that's special. I think if we left it question continuously, we could end up with a 2 hour session that is still going on. So maybe quick thoughts from you, for Kevin and
Sure,
Renuka.
sure, sure. So the and I won't talk about them individually, but just as a whole, that gave a lot of insights as to how recruiters now look at CVs. It gave a lot of insights about how the ATS, the applicant tracking system, works. It gave a lot of insights into some of the things that would do and do not when we are writing the CV itself, how we think about it, and kudos to Kevin for sharing that. And once again, I will re-emphasize. He actually went out of his way to offer this. It was totally unplanned. So thank you, Kevin, for giving us that opportunity to see real CVs and for have you to comment on that. And we got some really good feedback from there. With regards to Renuka, as always, a live wire. She's got that energy around her. There's a buzz around her. There's a serious level of, it's fun, but at the same time, there's a level of seriousness around her. And she shared with us some amazing tips and tricks. Muihan, what were they?
So one thing that we learned, of course, is to look better on screen. That's why we showed our first episode how we look like, and now how we look like very differently. Myself benefited a lot from Renuka sharing, and I really wanted to bring her on to help our job seekers, because I feel that a lot of interviews are going virtual these days, and without that understanding, most of us will think that attending a virtual session is just like a face-to-face session. Is very different. So planning is very important, and I like how she specified the things that you need to do before the session and during the session. So if you have not watched the episode, we really encourage you to go back and watch that, especially you are job seeking. And if you know anybody is job seeking, please encourage them to watch it as well. It is so, so important, I would say. And that comes to our final show yesterday. And we have these three very, very interesting people, two gentlemen and a lady. And maybe I'll let you start first before I give my comments.
Sure. So this episode was specifically focused on the area of talent management and what does it mean for us moving forward. What does it mean for us today? And a long time back, Zorab raised this: is talent management still around or is it dying? And we felt that this was a decent topic to talk about simply because it's just facing us all around. And what better way of having a discussion than bringing the guy who actually started that discussion, Zorab himself, and then looking at it slightly differently with Vertica out of New Delhi, seeing whether there was a slight variance to this discussion. And of course, we had the absolute delight of having Shazmi Ali on board. He comes in with a super duper experiential base, not only locally in Malaysia but regionally as a whole, and it was a fantastic mix of heavy hitters in this regard. Muihan?
So we wanted to say, if you watch our show yesterday, you can see how seamless the conversation is. And we wanted to know, and our guests that have been on our show will know that there's actually no script. Of course, we do have some high level content flow, but we don't have any script. And if you watch that show, it was so seamless that when Shasmi says something, then Vertika say, I want to add on to that, and then Zorab say, I got another point to that, and then it just between both of us was so fun to watch. And I'm so thankful that we had the opportunity to do yesterday's show, which comes to today. So with that, I really want to take this very good opportunity to wish everybody thank you so much. And when we started our journey on 13th of April, we never thought that we are going to last 53 sessions. And of course, maybe, sorry, I wasn't around. I had to get my cake. I wanted to just add to say this. I think maybe Taranjeet didn't tell you all this because I debated with him. So he said, do a show, not bad. Shall we do a weekly show? I said, no, must be a daily show. They say, wouldn't that be too much to ask? I say, only by doing a daily show, we will get better, right? And also, we create a cadence for people to actually tune in. So I know many people have said, oh, they don't know what to do. I just read Sulim's comment, don't know what to do. Monday come 6 o'clock. Don't worry. We are thinking very hard to see how we can reignite a season 2. Okay. Your last words, Taranjit?
So I think before we go to the last words, and we are already out of time, quite drastically. But you know what? It's the last finale, so I think we are entitled to do this. Why don't we do a thank you and a shout out to everyone who had
Sure.
joined us today? Muihan,
Great. So so we have Jen E today. Okay, thank you for joining us. We have Surjit Bawan over from Perth. Thank you. All right. Hope to see you when you all come to Malaysia. Definitely. Mian, thank you for tuning in. So I know you are very extremely busy, but you are here. Dr. Michael, yes, nice to
well
see
done.
you. Thank you so much for all the
Strong supporter from over the causeway. Yeah, man.
Okay, Andrew, thank you, Andrew, for tuning in. Call Minder from Ipoh, thank you. All right, and here he is, our good friend, Mr. Zorab Chong. Yay! Thank you. All right, Chong Sulim, thank you. Thank you for tuning into our last show. Mel, Mel from
Thanks.
Brisbane. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mel.
Of course, Ted, thank you. Thank you for the cake as well. I'm going to enjoy this after this. Wow, yeah.
Happy wedding anniversary, brother. Happy wedding
Thank you.
anniversary. All right.
I would take this opportunity to actually thank my wife being so supportive because no joke, to have 53 episodes every day in the house, I will then tell you the kind of resistance I
Pressure,
get. Pressure.
pressure. Yeah.
Okay, and of course, Jack Tan, thank you very much for being here, all your support. And we have also Ranjit Grillo. All right, thank you very much. Who else? Oh, Ben is here. So, hi, Ben. Thank you for your support. Thank you for coming to our show. Who else? Who else? Let me just quickly scroll down. Dear Singh.
There's a new one. Yes, let me address Deer Singh. So Deer is from Ipoh, an excellent gentleman, tremendous experience. He's been listening to us ever since we started. He's been slightly on the quiet side, but he's been giving us tremendous support. At least the feedback that he's been giving it to us has been amazing. So thank you, Deer, for listening in and providing us with that encouragement that has allowed us to come up to 53 episodes. So thanks for that, all the way from Ipoh. Thank you.
We have, of course, Singvi, my good mentor. Thank you for tuning in. Also, a good friend. Thanks for all your support. Uh, who else? Ben Hoy. Ben Hoy, thanks. And that's it. Yes, we are
Done.
done.
Well done. So, if I may, allow me to end this, and then I'll pass it back to you as always, Muhan, because you are the one running the bloody computer. But
I can't.
so you control the damn thing. Yeah. So, firstly, I would like to thank everyone on the list that have showed up every day, and you don't know how much it means to us to see familiar names. It's almost like family. So I really thank you for the effort, and it is an effort to tune in. You know, whether you are coming out from Australia or you're coming out from Singapore or another part of KL, there is an effort, and for that we thank you from the bottom of our heart. The other one that comes across is the opportunity to get feedback from you guys. Um, the feedback that we've got has been very encouraging. It has actually started us the discussion around what does series 2 look like. If we were to start this, which I think we will, let's give it a bit of a spin. So we are open to hearing what Elephant in the Room series 2 will look like. Feel free, provide us with some thoughts, provide us with some feedback. partake with us in this journey, because at the end of the day, it's the oneness that we're trying to get to address the elephant in the room. And lastly, I would like to thank Mui Han for actually being here and having this discourse and doing all the technical stuff. So Muihan, thanks a lot for that. My family, absolutely. I mean, without their support, I wouldn't be here. And I will end with that. Muihan, back to you, my friend.
Right. So also some quick notes from myself. First and foremost, I think I would not repeat what Taranjeet has said, and all you who have been tuning in on a daily basis is with our utmost gratitude. And I wanted to say this because a lot of guests that comes onto our show, they're very familiar with a webinar. And then when they come to our show, we tell them this, we don't actually over prepare for the show as like what question to ask, what answer to give. Is because this show is uniquely, I would say, 60% of time driven from you, the audience. So without your daily contribution, we actually got a no. We don't have a show. So with that, I'm extremely grateful for all those individuals that we have just mentioned, and you know who you are, coming in on a daily basis at 6 p.m. So that's one. Number two is I want to take this opportunity to also thank Taranjeet, because Taranjeet and I have been we got to know each other through some connections, as well as we've been having conversation off and on, and also we started to work on projects together. And every time we sit around, especially our favorite place is Starbucks in Tamantun, we have this kind of lengthy conversations like what you see both of us do on a daily basis on Elephant in the Room. So this whole idea of really coming together and say, why not we document this in a proper format, and we, of course, we have to learn how the technology works, and that was a great learning for me over the MCO period, and I'm so thankful given the opportunity. We wanted to maybe just bring that to mainstream. And so what you hear me and Taranjeet been debating about, especially in change management, corporate restructuring, talent management, strategy, is nothing new. We've been talking to each other for, I would say, 2 to 3 years, coming to 2 to 3 years on a very frequent basis. And this has been our utmost pleasure to come on live to actually share our thoughts and perspective. And of course, all our guests, I want to end to say that thank you so much for accepting our offer to be on our show. Without you, our show wouldn't be that complete. So your succinct points and your willingness to be, how to say, follow our rules, quote unquote, because we tell you to do this, do that, do that. Sorry if you have any misgiving. We hope to do better in season 2, but also let us know how season 2 should look like. Okay,
Absolutely.
so with that, thank you very much. It is coming to 6:52, so I better stop here. Bye-bye to all, and see you some other time. And do connect with us both on LinkedIn and Facebook, and we can continue the conversation even without the show. All right?
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye bye.